Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new. I haven't posted in a very long time, and I figure you guys deserve like an update on what's going on. So my youngest boy, if you guys have been watching for a while, you guys know that he is nonverbal. And he's 3.5 now. We started speech last spring. So that would have been spring of 2022, around February, I think. During those sessions, he got a diagnosis of childhood apraxia. Nobody really went into depth with us about exactly what that was. And they kind of just made it seem like it wasn't a huge deal. Everybody's like, oh, by the time he's 4 or 5, he'll talk. So we just, it was what it was. Researched it a little bit. I came to realize like it's a motor planning disorder. So like he knows what he wants to say. It's getting his mouth to say it. Well, we had to stop his speech therapy after about 3 months because our insurance no longer wanted to cover it. It was a whole mess. His sessions were twice a week, and we were already paying $25 per session in copays. So that was like $400 a month that we were spending in copays. It's like a car payment, okay? Like that's $100 less than we pay for our house payment monthly. Like we pay $535 on our house, and like we were paying $400 for speech therapy a month. Like it's a lot of money. And when our insurance decided they didn't want to pay it at all, we could not afford it. And so talk about feeling like the world's crappiest parent. It's nothing like knowing your kid needs help and not being able to help them. Just because we didn't have the money for it. I want to say his sessions were $150 per session. So that was twice a week. So that was $300 a week for 2 30-minute sessions for an hour. And that was without insurance. And there was just no way we could afford to do that. So, and we didn't really see much improvement anyways. So we figured maybe he's a little bit too little for it. They would talk often about how they had a hard time getting him to focus or pay attention. So after doing it for 3 months, and our insurance decided they didn't want to pay it anymore, we quit going. And we did it because we knew that when he turned 3, because when he started he was 2, his birthday's in May. We knew that in the fall he could start at our local school system for speech therapy. So that was our original plan, was we'll take the summer off essentially, and by August, maybe September, he'll start speech therapy with the school system. Well, as it would turn out, the school system lost their speech pathologist, and it has taken them the entire fall semester to hire in a new speech pathologist. It's now middle of December. About a week ago, we had our official consultation with her, and she said that she agrees with the apraxia diagnosis. During this time frame, I have learned more about apraxia. I've joined Facebook groups for parents who have kids with apraxia. So we've learned more about it, and it's something that can affect people into adulthood. I've talked to parents on there whose kids are like 17, 18 years old, and they would prefer to do sign language over talking because talking is still such a struggle for them. And I talked to the speech pathologist about, when we had our consult last week, about like, should we be looking into learning sign language? She said that sign language isn't a bad idea. And I was like, do we need to like get classes? Like, how does this work? Like, I don't know where you go to go learn a new language. And she said that we really only need to learn baby sign, and that she didn't expect him to be nonverbal his whole life. However, she also mentioned that he was pretty severely apraxic because he only has a couple of words. Currently, he says mama, dada. He said nana for the first time the other day. He'll say cheek and cheese, and that's kind of it. And that's where he's been at since he was probably 18 months old. He'll rotate through words, and when he says them, they're perfectly clear, and then they disappear. He said, Mama, I'm going to try not to get emotional. This is a big reason why I haven't made this video. I needed time to process because I have cried a lot. And I take it back. Our consultation was not last week. It was the week before. It's been 2 weeks. He said, Mama, pretty consistently when he was really little. And then it just kind of dried up and went away. And it was like an entire year before I heard it again. And then he said it in Target. In the middle of Target, he said it. And I just like started crying in the middle of Target. And then it went away again, and then it came back this summer, and now it's like a hit or a miss. He might say it a little bit, for like a couple of days, and then it dries up, and then it might come back for like a week, and then it dries up. And it's like that with all of the words. There's nothing that's been like super consistently with him forever. He used to say, I'm sad, anytime that he was upset, and it was so clear. And now that's starting to disappear. We hardly hear him say it, and when he does try to say it, it is coming out very slurred. It's not articulate, and it sounds like he's struggling to say it. I expect it'll be fully gone within a few weeks. So that's hard. That's really hard. And so my husband and I right now, we're discussing what's the next best step. I've also, during all of this, I've learned that apraxia is a disability. Not shocking, but the way that everybody that I talked to about with apraxia, they made it seem like it was just a fleeting childhood thing, like a developmental delay type of a thing, like it'll go away kind of a thing. It's not gone away. He's clearly struggling. So we're right now is, I'm gonna lean back because my back is killing me. Part of getting old, okay? I got arthritis in my lower back. I can't do that sit up straight thing anymore. Not long term. So I've just got currently a laundry list of things I am trying to figure out for him. Part of what the speech pathologist, when it came to the learning sign language bit, she told us just to do baby signs. She didn't think he needed anything extensive. But then I brought up the fact that some people have it their whole life and prefer to sign. And she was like, yeah, some people do. Da, da, da. She was kind of like dancing around the subject of blatantly telling me, yeah, we need to learn it. It's kind of what it felt like. So my husband and I are kind of at a standpoint of like, do we sign up for sign language classes? My dad Googled it because I was having a hard time figuring out where do you even learn sign? Everybody kept telling me, just learn it on YouTube. But there's so much more that goes into a language than just learning it on YouTube. Like, to fully understand a language, there's, culture and history, and the same thing goes for sign language. So my dad actually Googled it, and he found that the local Ivy Tech offers sign language classes. So my husband and I are like, we're discussing like, do we need to do that now? Should we let him try doing speech therapy for a little bit and see if we see any improvements this time around? Because we didn't see any improvements the last time. And the speech therapist said that when it comes to him learning to talk, it's all going to be on Ira's time frame. There is no time frame for how long it's going to take. It's something that he very much struggles with, and he doesn't want to do it because it is hard. We've noticed that with him. You try to get him to talk, and if he's in a chatty mood and feels like doing it, like he'll be firing off those words that he knows, and he might even try to say a new one. But when he's having a hard time getting the words to come, he won't look at you. He tries to avoid you. He'll run away. He might cry. Like, he doesn't want to do it. So it's a big, what do you do with that, kind of a thing. So with that, the speech pathologist mentioned that a lot of times kids who have apraxia also struggle with fine motor skills. So it's been recommended to have him evaluated to see if he needs occupational therapy. Well, if we go back to the place out in town for occupational therapy that we went back in the spring, they do a lot of therapies for children. That'll be another $25 per visit, assuming our insurance covers it. Which hadn't even gotten into us going back there yet. This is a tangled web, okay? So I'm going to back it up a little bit further. The kids had doctor's appointments. Back in beginning of November, I want to say. And sorry, my heater is kicking on. I know you guys can hear that. Okay, the heater turned off, so take two. So, yeah, back in November, the boys had doctor's appointments. I don't even remember what they were for. And during the doctor's appointment, we seen a new pediatrician, and she recommended both boys be evaluated for autism. I've got a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. 3-year-old has apraxia. My 6-year-old has been diagnosed with ADHD, and he's on medication for it, and it helps amazingly. I have thought for years my oldest boy might be autistic. I thought for years that he was like high functioning, but on the spectrum. Our old pediatrician, who I now realize we stayed with well longer than we should have. He was my pediatrician growing up. So there was some nostalgia there, and there was trust there because my parents trusted him with me. So why would I not trust him with my boys? He, every time I would evaluate my boys in the office for autism, for both of them, he would say they show signs of being on the spectrum, but not enough for a diagnosis. There are a lot of people who are high functioning, but still autistic. And there are a lot of people who fall through on testing and who don't even find out that they're on the spectrum until they're older kids or teens or even adults. There are people in their 30s, as I've researched autism, learned more about it, that are finding out they're on the spectrum. And I feel like after he found out my boys had signs of autism, but not enough for a diagnosis, we should have been sent in for an evaluation. Granted, one time I pushed the subject and asked for an outside evaluation. He put in for the referral, and we did not go because I heard bad things about the place we were going to be sent. And so my husband and I discussed it, and we decided just to wait and see what the school system had to say. And if he ever had a teacher recommend him being evaluated, then we'd go forth with it. Well, and I love my husband. I don't want to say anything about him here on the internet. It really just comes down to disagreements in how we handle things. And I believe he really just didn't want to accept that our kids might be having problems cognitively. And I know that's a hard thing for people to accept. And I think I would have had a hard time accepting it myself if I hadn't grown up with a dyslexia diagnosis and being in special education classes. There's such a stigma around it. It makes things harder, and it does, especially when it comes to like the social aspect in school and how people talk to you, treat you, look at you, think about you. So I get that. And we just came to the agreement of, let's see what the school system has to say. Well, when it came to getting him evaluated for ADHD, I've been researching autism for years, and I've on and off for years, and just trying to figure out, does he have it, does he not? Because he shows signs, but not for a diagnosis. I finally came across the correlation between autism and ADHD. That a lot of people who have ADHD have a lot of signs of autism, and that there are some people who have autism and they have ADHD at the same time, and so sometimes they cancel each other out in some areas, which is very much my boy, I believe, falls into that category. For one, people with ADHD, they love, they want the adrenaline kick, right? So like going to an amusement park, they should be all about it. But then people with autism might be more reserved and cautious. And my son falls into that. Like, he wants the adrenaline, but he wants it to be the safest way possible. Like, don't put me out of my comfort zone any. Don't stress me out any. Don't make me the least bit uncomfortable. But also, I need the dopamine kick. So little things like that, it really makes me think that he probably has ADHD and autism. If he did not have ADHD, his ADHD medication would not work. And that's what his doctor specifically said. So I personally think he has both. For Ira, I've questioned it either way. Like, I don't know. And it's hard because he can't talk to us, right? So he's always been a question mark, but when it came down to his evaluations, we got the exact same thing from the pediatrician of he shows signs for diagnosis, not enough. He shows signs of autism, not enough for diagnosis. We got that with both kids. So, the other issue we have with that pediatrician is that there's a thing in my state, we live in Indiana, that is called First Steps, and it offers speech therapy for kids who are 3 and under. Both of my boys would have qualified for that. It's state funded. I think they come to your house. Both of my kids would have qualified for that. Both of them. Nobody ever told us. Never heard anything about it until we had our first IEP meeting at the school, and they asked, did you do First Steps? And I'm like, what is that? Nobody told us. It's insane. The reason they age out at 3 is because at 3 you can start your local school system for speech therapy. My oldest boy, I'm now coming to realize, likely also had apraxia. So I'm starting to wonder if it's genetic. So when we had our consultation with our speech therapist, she was talking about the severities of apraxia. She talked about how some kids are nonverbal. So our youngest boy is like severely apraxic. And then she said that there are some kids who have a lot of jargon and they pick up on speech pretty quickly, especially having speech therapy, which is exactly the category my oldest boy falls under. He did a lot of, if you really, really, really want to know what he sounded like, go back in my vlogs to probably like 2018 time frame, 2017, 2018. Find a video with him in it, and I'm sure you'll know exactly what I'm talking about when you hear it. Because his was a lot of like none of it made any sense, right? And then it'd be like car and stop sign, blah, 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 blah. Like none of it made sense. And then you just have like words peppered here and there. My heater's coming on again. It's getting cold outside, guys. We're just gonna have to roll with it. So Levi, we got into speech therapy with the local school system, and he had evaluations with them. I would have to dig out his paperwork, which I don't really know what's at, to be honest with you, and see what they put down. I don't remember them ever giving him a diagnosis, because when we had Ira diagnosed, like I'd never heard the term apraxia before. With Levi, I remember hearing the term jargon. He used a lot of jargon, like being told that. I don't remember anybody ever saying he has apraxia, but I highly suspect that's what it was. He didn't start speaking in sentences until he was 4 years old. He started speech therapy at 3, and it took he showed improvement in speech pretty quickly once he started. It really helped him. But yeah, he was 4 before he started. And just for reference, like his birthday's in July, so that August he started speech therapy. Well, and it was more like October after their evaluations and that process. So it was like October after he turned 3, he started speech therapy. And it wasn't until the following fall, when he entered speech therapy again, that he really started using sentences. And then he had speech therapy that full fall. So he had 2 years of it, and now he doesn't need it anymore. He speaks beautifully, and people are impressed with like his big vocabulary, and like he's very articulate. So assuming apraxia is what he had, which it kind of sounds like it probably was, he's, I would consider, recovered. But my youngest boy is so much worse. Like, he doesn't even do the jargon. We referenced him as being like one of the parents on the Peanuts cartoon where they talk out because he'll have a whole conversation with you and never open his mouth. And like I said, occasionally he'll pop up with a word here or there. Whereas Levi had a large vocabulary, he just couldn't get sentences to form. And I personally really would love to see if there's any correlation between ADHD and speech, or autism and speech, because it seems like in this support group I'm in on Facebook that there are a lot of parents out there with kids who have, if their kid has apraxia, they also have autism, or if they have apraxia, they also have ADHD. And I would love to see the correlation there, because our pediatrician told us it didn't go hand in hand, but I'm kind of really questioning that personally. Since filming this video, I had posed the question in the apraxia Facebook group on whether or not there's a correlation between apraxia and ADHD or autism. And another mom said, yes, there is. It's very seldom, apparently, that you'll see apraxia by itself. More often than not, it presents with another condition, normally ADHD or autism. So there's that. So yeah, we are waiting on speech to start up with the school. We've asked the school for an evaluation for occupational therapy for my youngest. I need to ask them for occupational therapy review or evaluation, I guess is the term, for my oldest boy, because he has always also been struggling with his fine motor skills. We were always told when he was little, make him play with Play-Doh, make him do this, make him do that. And I was like, he didn't really care for Play-Doh. He really wasn't a big fan. I mean, he went through like a little blip of a moment, a couple months where like he loved Play-Doh, and then he was like over it. He's never really been a big Play-Doh fan. And just anything trying to get him to do the small, like it just aggravates him. He struggles with it. And like he's 6 years old. He has a hard time putting on his coat. He can't put his shoes on. He definitely can't tie shoelaces. He struggles just pulling back the Velcro on his shoes to put them on. Writing, he has improved a lot, but he's been in preschool since he was 4 and he's 6 now. And they've been working on it for years at this point, so it's improving, but it's still not great. There's a lot of little things there that indicate that he may need occupational therapy, and I always just thought that, oh, they're a little behind, it's because they're boys. He's got a locked thumb, like his thumb is bent like that, so like that doesn't help things, you know, like, and both of my boys have locked thumbs. It comes from my husband's side of the family. But after finding out that having problems with fine motor skills a lot of times go hand in hand with kids who have apraxia of speech, and then a lot of times they need occupational therapy,